Good morning. I'm making this video about the Carlos Lopez project. I've worked almost a month on that project, and that includes selling the project, researching materials, arranging for materials, and actual construction on the job. We agreed on a price of $85,000 to build this swimming pool. There was potentially two other stages in that I would possibly build a pool house and a long slide from the pool down to the lake, which I have all that documentation. Here, I just printed off last night all of the email communications, which as you can see is a very lot of email communications. Nevertheless, after I dug the swimming pool, I got a telephone call from the superintendent on the job that my contract was canceled. I have not been officially notified as of yet, and today is October the 6th. I got the phone call on the 5th, or excuse me, on the 4th. I have pictures of all the work I've done, and just as soon as I finished digging that pool, I got that phone call that evening. Okay, now, here's what else happened. I'm going to describe the scheme that is taking place here. When I first started digging the pool on Monday morning, I was digging the pool, had my excavator back there, I had my fellas back there working, and I needed a tool from the truck in front of the house. I go to the front of the house, and there is Hilltop Pools sitting in the road. I walk up there to Hilltop Pools, I say, "What's going on, fellas?" And they said, "We're here to remodel a swimming pool. Give a price on remodeling the swimming pool." I said, "Well, wait a minute, buddy. I'm back here remodeling that swimming pool." "Oh, well." And I said, "Well, wait a minute. Let me call, see what's going on here." So I called Mr. Lopez himself, and boy, I ain't called nobody to remodel a swimming pool. So I tell Hilltop Pools, Mr. Lopez says he hadn't called anybody else to remodel a swimming pool, that I have the job. I said, it's not my business, but what I suggest you fellas do, you can call somebody. So the fella sat right there in his truck seat, and he called somebody. He called his office. And his secretary, or whomever he was speaking to, said, "No, I called this morning and confirmed the appointment." They look at each other. We look at each other. Throw up our hands, don't know what's going on. Shake hands and leave. They leave. I go back to work. Superintendent calls me and says, "We called those guys about a month ago. They just now showing up." Well, that ain't what they just said. They just said the secretary called and confirmed the appointment that morning. All right. Now, having said that, let's back up a little bit. I'm just going to tell you. I'm going to tell you. Here's what the scheme is. The scheme is they hire me, Atlantis Swimming Pool Environments. They hire my company, or my family's own company. That's what it is. And they get me to start the pool. All right, I'm getting $85,000 for the pool. My initial price was $90,000. They got me down $5,000. So as soon as I dig that pool, you see, I'm supposed to receive $19,500. Next couple of days, I'm gonna have the steel and the plumbing in it, and I'm gonna blow the concrete in. I get another $19,500. Okay. Well, they just fired me before I got that $19,500, but that's what's due right now, today. The day I dug that pool, you see. So now they're going to fire me, and they're going to try to get me to accept a pittance, a small amount, as if I were a laborer, and be on my way. Well, that's not going to fly. But see, what they're going to do then is they're going to negotiate with, I'm presuming, probably Hilltop Pools, and it may or may not be Hilltop Pools. We'll wait and see. Today's October the 6th. I'm filming this so we already know what's going on, and on down the road we'll see what happens. But they're going to hire some other pool company, and they're going to say, well, now wait a minute. You need to knock off about $25,000 of this cost because it's already dug. And we had a problem with that man and had to send him on down the road. So that much work is done. So you got to knock this much off. And they probably think they're going to pay me $2,000 or $3,000 for digging that pool, you see, but I ain't going to accept that. That's what's going on. All right, so then, that's their scheme. Now, to show how it's fallen into place, Akeem Smith, the superintendent, he called me up and he said, Mr. Bradford, we got to cancel that contract. Got a phone call from the attorney, said you got to cancel your contract. I said, what in the world for, Mr. Smith? And he says, well, the attorney said she can't find you licensed to do business anywhere in the state of Georgia. I said, well, that's no problem. I said, I've got all that paperwork. And he said, well, send it to me. I sent it to him. I sent it to him, and he gets back on the phone, and he says, well, it's gone a long time now. And he finally called me back and says, they're still going to cancel the contract. That's not the problem that you got about your license. What the problem is we get our funding from the government. We do all these government contracts, and we're getting our funding from the government. And the government funding has its own set of standards. And you just don't meet those standards. Well, I said, Mr. Smith, what specific standards are those? And whatever I need to do, I will meet them. Well, I don't know, he says. I don't know what standards those are. And he said, but we had to borrow the money to build that pool, and if we didn't use the government lending, we'd have to pay for it out of pocket. We just don't have it. All right. Now, that's what Mr. Smith has told me. That's where we're at right now. But let me back up. And what Mr. Smith don't know is when me and Mr. Carlos Lopez himself were at the pool, and it was just he and I, you see, I made an agreement with Mr. Lopez. Mr. Lopez, I like this project. It's a good project. I will enjoy doing it, Mr. Lopez. You give me this job, and I'm not taking on any other projects, and you will be the only pool I'm building, and you will get my undivided attention. And I was honest with Mr. Lopez. I said, now, I've sold one more pool. You know, I haven't signed the contract yet, but he told me I'm getting it, and he's gone to the bank with the contract. And he said the bank just needs to see the contract to include it into the loan with the house that he's building. And I'll get the check on that one next week. But I've got to get a zoning variance on that pool, Mr. Lopez. So it's going to be, in this city of Atlanta, it's going to be 4 to 6 months before I even start that pool. Excuse me. So, Mr. Lopez, I'll be able to build this swimming pool for you. I'm going to be on the job every day. Ain't going to be on no other jobs. You ain't going to have to look for me. And he liked that. And I offered to do that. And let me tell you, I got people calling me wanting swimming pools like you wouldn't believe. And I've got it documented. I'm going to be able to show all you people how many pools I turned away to do Mr. Lopez's swimming pool. And give him my undivided attention. Now, when I tell Mr. Lopez this, guess what he said to me? He said, well, I don't have to go to any bank to get the money. I'm just going to write the check and tell you to build it. That's what Mr. Lopez said to me. Now, that's not what Mr. Smith said. Mr. Smith said they got to go to a bank and get the money, the government bank, and I don't meet the criteria that that bank requires. Well, people, we're not stupid. And there's too many holes in this scheme right here. Some of the best laid plans fall apart, and this wasn't even a very well laid plan right here. They just think they're slick. They think they're going to be able to do what they got intended to do here. And what they intend to do is get me to dig that pool, save them $25,000, and get the next contractor to come in there and give him a contract minus that $25,000, pay me a couple $1,000, send me on down the road. And so what? Then I lost all them other pools by telling them that I would do their pool exclusively. That's what they're doing here, people. And I have recorded this for the pending jury trial that we will have over this construction project. My name is R.T. Bradford, and this is the 6th day of October, 2018. And there's no fraud or any misrepresentations on the part of me or the company that I'm with, Atlanta Swimming Pool Environments. That's all I have to say for now. I may record a subsequent video as things unfold. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.